Welcome, Dave Hawk, to the show, High Value Men Conversations. I appreciate you being on, brother. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I know you have a lot to share with not only me, and I have a lot to learn from you as well as our community of listeners. So I appreciate that. I know you have an audience that's going to be listening as well, too. Of course, all of these links are going to come out. Just kind of FYI, years ago, when I was going through child support, this is what made me, I found you so admirable, because I wish back then, like I told you before, I'm sort of in that, that middle age range in a sense.
Right, right.
Back in the early 90s, when I was going through the same child support process, I wish we had social media, because
Right.
because I actually wrote 2 books about child support.
Let's go.
That was published through Publish America. Back then, it was a self-publishing firm called Publish America. And I went through a series of litigations, I would say. And so since then, the price of my book kind of skyrocketed after that. And so I kind of stopped selling it and started promoting it. But this was several years ago. This is probably about 10 to 15 years ago now. It just so happened that I was a little blessed. I was very fortunate. This is just my story, where my children, I was able to get them at younger ages. So the child support, of course, had stopped, but I was definitely greatly in arrears. They were coming for me. I had been arrested a few times for it. I had warrants for my arrest, and it was a mess. And then what I learned, though, over time, which I know you're going to talk about, is how really to communicate. That was the key for me when it came to my children's mother, and so that was the key for me. But I just wanted to kind of jump into you, tell us a little bit about yourself. And then let's jump right into it, brother. How Value Men Conversations?
Let's go. Well, what's going on, everybody? My name is Dev Hawk. I am the coach, professor, and teacher of the Title IV-D University. And for those who might not even understand or know, what is Title IV-D? So we're talking about child support. And there's a program that the federal government put together to enforce the collection of child support payments. And that falls under Title IV-D, which is actually the title, or the section rather, inside of the Social Security Act, for which child support falls under. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people actually have no clue whatsoever that child support is actually a Social Security. And when most people think about Social Security, what do you think about? You think about somebody who's old or someone who's disabled. Well, in 1935, children were considered disabled because they cannot work for themselves.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So parents or mothers, rather, when their husbands were dying off at war, or they would get divorced and go astray, these women in 1935 didn't have jobs. It wasn't a thing for them to work. So they would go and get public welfare. But welfare will only give you money for yourself, and they didn't have a program for the children. Mm-hmm. So the United States decided, okay, we need to save our kids. Let's go ahead and put together this program called child support, where if the father wasn't there, the mother was obviously not working, and she didn't have funds, and then there was no other relative in the family who could assist taking care of these children, they put out that program so that those women would not be left astray. But that it's changed so much since then. But that's where Title IV-D ended up coming from.
So really quick, because that's I did not know that. Now, like I said before, I was a big advocate, and I did publish a couple of books. But I wanted to kind of jump back a little bit, because in the 90s, when Bill and Hillary Clinton were elected, didn't somewhere in there the child support laws change?
Yeah, 1996.
Okay.
Damn. So the name of the law it was something about like the Care for Yourself Act or something like that, but that was under Bill Clinton's administration, and it just changed it to where child support does not even hold the same purposes that it once had when it started.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So now I know you advocate, you're a coach, you're also a professor. How does your company sort of help transition fathers or even mothers, whoever may be in this child support system, sort of either, I don't want to say reduce it because the children do need to be supported, Dev. So like how does your company sort of help others in terms of moving them or educating them about child support and tell us a little bit more about how that process works for your company.
Okay, cool. So first, let me say I'm a self uh, uh named professor. I'm not an academic professor. I'm not a scholar.
I understand. Yeah.
Um,
You are to us, so don't worry about that. You are to our audience, definitely. But go ahead.
let's get it. So basically, well, the issue is with most people being on child support, there's two major components. Okay. The first component is most fathers that even get on child support, they believe that the process for which they are being put through is something that is it has to happen. And the reason that they feel this way is because since 1975, when the enforcement of child support got put into play, the government has been running this to where they were going after fathers so that they can reimburse the state for the money that they give out for these child support payments. And so for years, men mostly have been the victim of this because of their ignorance, not knowing what their rights are, number one, as a parent, what their rights are as an American, whether you black, white, whatever color you are, you have certain rights, and there's something called equal protections. So what we do is we educate these individuals on everything that you think you know about child support is false, because what you think you know has only been passed down from the generations of, look at it like this. I'm on child support, and then one of my nephews or little brothers or somebody from my neighborhood tells me that they're on child support. I've been freaked over by child support so bad. The only thing that I can tell them is, oh, you better pay that or they're going to lock you up. They're going to take your passport. They're going to take your driver's license. That's the only information that we have. So we teach people, no, that's not the only options that you have. You have to start learning what your rights to due process are, what your rights are as a parent. Like, you have God-given rights that the Constitution actually protects you so that no judge can overturn these things. But most men don't know it. Now, the second component is this, and I'm sorry. So I just want to touch on this, right? The second component is that for so many years, women have been passed down. Girl, go down to the child support thing and sign up. So it's two components. So it's ignorance on both sides, because the women only thinking that I'm going to put him on child support, or if I get on welfare, they're going to take care of me and I'll be okay. And the components is that neither one of them know what their rights are. So that's what we educate everybody on.
So really quick there. So what's the website they can go to get this material? What's the website they go to get this help from you? And as well as we've already listed your Instagram and your Facebook pages, so folks can go there, like you, support you, and follow you. But what's the website to go to get this information from, or how can they get more information? How can they learn from you? How can they use your services? Give us that information real quick.
4D University. That's the number 4, the letter D, and university. So 4duniversity.info.
Okay. Okay. Now that's the website. Now of course your Instagram has already at the link. You can see the link at the bottom of the screen. Your Facebook is also, profile link is also on the screen. Just really quick, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's jump right into this child support. We're going to look at a couple of different scenarios there, and then you will walk us through, how that works, what fathers need to know, or what moms need to know that's on child support, because we know that both men and women pay it. And then I'll share a little bit about my struggles, what I came up with. I don't have to go through that now, but
Thank God.
there are some brothers now that are going through, and like you said, that is a generational thing, and I think that's something our culture should be aware of. I know it just doesn't happen with just African Americans, but it also happens with all races.
Yep.
That same culture of generational sort of ideology that we of course can't necessarily think ourselves through the system or get enough information, especially when it comes to understanding what our subsistence expenses are when they do the child support calculation, and as well as what we need to say when we're in front of the magistrate judge or when we go for a particular custody hearing, especially if we're going through something like a divorce, because I know that can be different when you're a single parent. So we'll jump into that. But really quickly, tell us about yourself. I know you have a history of how you actually got started in this, and then I know you also operate other businesses as well too.
Yeah. So I'm from North Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Used to be a drug dealer back in my late teens, early 20s. I got arrested at 22 years old. I did 10 years in federal prison for conspiracy to distribute narcotics. And during that time, I made prison my university. I made prison the institution where I spent a large majority of my days studying business, studying finances, hanging around individuals who had the same type of mindset, individuals who were helping to mold a young kid at 22 years old that was ignorant to life about things such as credit. Now, and I say this because it's so funny. I made a lot of money, but didn't know that you can purchase a car and pay off a note. During those days when I was getting all this money, we were just buying cars cash, and I thought that's how everyone did it. I didn't even know that credit was a thing. So I learned credit while in prison. I learned to repair credit while in prison. Fast forward 2016, December, I came home. I had to get a job, obviously, that had me working at some factory. I was getting about $8.50 an hour.
Wow, that sounds like it was below minimum wage.
That shit was the worst, bro. But like what was so crazy about it was in my mind, I knew what I wanted to do, but the restrictions that was placed upon me because of the halfway house wouldn't allow me to just jump right into business.
Cool.
Long story short, I ended up convincing the owners of the company that I worked for to give me a loan to start a seasonal business. In Philly, we got something called Water Ice. And I wasn't in Philly, I was in Scranton, PA. So I said, you know what? I'm going to bring Water Ice to Scranton. And that was in May of 2017. I established that business. I have not worked a 9 to 5 since.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's funny because we do Water Ice down here in the Maryland, D.C. area. So yeah, I know exactly what you're referring to.
A lot of people are like, what is it? But that was the thing that catapulted me into the legal world. You know, once I came home from jail, I started a clothing company, Kid Royal. Had that clothing company for about 3 years, but fashion is not really my thing. I was just in it for the money. Fast forward 2020, the pandemic hit. Before the pandemic hit, I started a staffing company in January. Pandemic hit in March, shut the whole business down because everybody was right.
Recession-proof businesses right there.
It's funny, like, but you learn, things you learn. So in September of 2020, I started my moving company, which is now still alive and day. Consider It Done Demo and Moving. That's the name of my moving company. And then we also have Consider It Done Home Services, for where we mount TVs, we build sheds and gazebos. I have over 9 individuals that work for me. And I started to do showing people how to get business credit. You know what? Black individuals, I do most of this stuff for the culture. If everybody else can benefit, that's fine. But our Black brothers and sisters are so unaware of these benefits. I need to bring this to the forefront. This was my mentality when I started to do business coaching. And I'm gonna wrap it up with this. So I got into the business coaching, and so many people had bad credit. They're like, I want to get business credit. How do I get my credit right? So I jumped back into the credit space, helping people fix their credit. I put up one post that was it was child support related, and I said, you always having trouble getting child support off of your credit with other credit agencies, deal with me and I'll get you started. At that time was in January. I had 11,000 followers, and literally between January and now July, I'm at 44,000 followers, starting with that one post talking about
that's right. That's right. Just I want to jump off topic just slightly because you mentioned something that I think is very important, especially for our entrepreneurial listeners, because it's okay to fail. You know,
Yeah.
you said something. You know, and that's me as well too. I started so many businesses over my lifetime that it's okay to fail, and now I'm at a space where I've utilized about 5 different sources of income. I'll say that I won't call them businesses, but 5 different sources of income that are,
Hmm.
and some of them are artificially are AI based generator or are AI
Right.
based you have AI based utilization. But just wanted to talk about that because for our entrepreneurs, and we'll jump back onto the child support space as well too. But just for our entrepreneurs who are listening, tell us about why it's so important to fail that business, and then just finding something that works, and then sticking with that, and then making a system so that you don't have to keep chasing that money. Dave, talk a little bit about that and what you've experienced in your own personal business adventures.
So listen, I love this kind of talk, and I can do this
Yes.
show, right? So here's the thing. I tell everybody, why haven't you started a business? When anybody tells me, yeah, I've been thinking about doing this and doing that, I'm like, so what's stopping you? It's always, I don't have the money, I don't
Mhm.
have the credit, I'm still learning. And I say, yo, bro, I started my moving company with $100 to my name. They said, well, how'd you buy trucks? I said, I didn't. I made my customers pay me, and I will go and rent the truck, and I paid my workers after we got paid for the day. The first move that I ever did, let's make something really clear. I didn't know shit about moving.
It's
I
okay.
charged people. I just knew that I wanted to get into something and make my own money.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm gonna try it. And my first couple of moves, I literally would even break even after I paid for everything, or I will only end up with $50 for the day. And people often ask me, well, why would you continue? Why would you continue in that? If I said, because that shit just taught me I won't do this type of move for this amount anymore. I need to up my prices.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You learn from your failures. I tell all wannabe entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs who are already in the game, don't be scared to fail, because the worst thing that could happen from you failing is that you start back at zero. But if you got ambition and you got the right mind state and that dog in you to go get it, you're going to be able to bounce back, no problem. So the failures actually are worth more than all the books that you're trying to read to teach you the lessons that you want to learn.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree. I failed multiple businesses before I found the ones that actually work. And I was able to finally at some point sustain, at least one or two that was able to bring me in some recurring income structures without having to keep chasing the money, chasing the money, chasing the money. So I like exactly what you're doing. That's very inspirational, brother. So you mentioned about as far as the rights that fathers, and we'll use fathers just for this
For the
particular
topic.
show,
Right.
because of
Hmm.
course we're talking about high value men conversation. So we want to make our men aware and bring them up to a conscious level of what they can do in order to think themselves through this process, get the education from yourself, as well as be able to maneuver through a system. I think sort of helps divide the family. I think that child support system divides the family. I think it was designed, built, yeah, designed, built, as well as uh, cultivated, especially from a generational perspective, to divide not only the family but also separate man and woman from being able to raise a child successfully. Because when I look at my own personal experience, going through all that drama that I went through with child support, going back and forth to court, getting arrested, um,
Mm.
having to pay thousands of dollars in child support because I was making good money back then. Um, because I was educated black man, so I was making, great money. And so, just having to pay, 1,000 to 1,200, almost $1,500 in child support a month was,
Hmm.
and then having to keep going back down, trying to get reductions, couldn't get reductions, and wouldn't look at my subsistence expenses. Every time I went down, I did not have representation. I did not have. It was the mom who had yeah, yeah, no, yes. And so I couldn't get, I wouldn't say I couldn't afford a lawyer, but at the time when you go, you don't realize that they already have representation. They have
Right.
representation. I didn't know that, you know, tried to delay it on so many different occasions, just a lot of different things. So I just want to hear from the expert, especially now, because I know some of the laws have slightly changed, but because you're an expert in that field, how do we make fathers aware of what to do when they get that sheet of paper in the mail?
All right, first things first. Do not, I repeat, do not get a lawyer.
Okay,
Child
okay.
off of your consent, okay? The
Mhm.
way that child support works is based off of your consent. Now I'm gonna have to get a little bit deep and just try to stay with me if you can, guys. The first thing is you do not take a lawyer. The reason why is because I said child support is based off of your consent. It's essentially a voluntary program. Child support is held in a fake courtroom with a fake judge. These individuals are fake, they're phony. And people say, well, how? Well, because child support, and you can look this up, is an administrative program. So
Mhm.
there's three branches of government, okay? We got judicial, legislative, and
Mhm.
executive.
Yes.
Executive is the lowest branch of government. And executive is connected to or referred to as only for the citizens. This is mostly civil cases. So when someone brings a case against you for child support, it's all based on you consenting to being a part of the program that they're running. So you say, well, how can you stop a person? Well, number one, if you take a lawyer with you, you're already giving them consent because you're bringing an attorney
I didn't
to
know
fight.
that, yeah. I did
Yeah.
not know that. Wow.
And here's the thing with attorneys, think about this. How many times have you seen an advertising, whether it be on video or a billboard of an accident attorney, right? These accident attorneys are
All over
waiting
the place.
for someone to get into an accident so that they can make money. And then they always say, like, we'll get you top dollar, we'll get you everything. When
Mhm.
there's millions and millions of people on child support, why has there never been a commercial or advertising of a lawyer saying, yo, you on child support? Are they robbing you blind? They're taking too much
Yo,
money or
yo,
get you.
facts. Facts.
The reason why is because they cannot argue anything outside of a strict guideline that the courts give them. And number two, lawyers' first duty is to the courts, is not to the client.
Mm.
So look at it like this. It's like the car is your lawyer and you are sitting in the passenger seat. The car is getting you to where you have to go. But if you go to a T spot in the road and the sign says one way and you can only turn right, but your destination is to the left.
Mhm.
If you turn left, you're going to get pulled over. You're going to get penalized, right?
Yeah.
Well, that lawyer can only turn right. He can't turn left, even though that's your destination right there. Your lawyer can't get you there. The reason is because he has to follow the strict guidelines. The roadway says one way, turn right.
Yeah.
You have to get out the car and walk over there yourself. So I tell everyone, do not take a lawyer in the court with you. The second thing is this. When you think about this whole process of it being administrative, people, they still don't grasp what does that mean. It's a fake courtroom because they literally hire and rent that room to look aesthetically like it's a court proceeding. So you believe that everything that's going on is real. Even the guy who's wearing the robe,
Well, they a
his
magistrate judge, right?
he's the magistrate, but guess what? He's not a real judge. He's only there to referee or be the commissioner of the proceeding. And
Mm.
he your consent in order to run the play. Now, a lot of people probably miss it because you're so caught up. He'll even say, now, I'm not the real judge in this matter. You can either agree or disagree to the recommendation that I'm going to give to the judge to sign off. Real
Mm.
judges sign off on the paperwork, but they're never in the courtroom with you.
Okay. That's just a magistrate judge.
That's just magistrate judge, temporary judge. Sometimes there's lawyers that are playing magistrate at the moment,
Mhm.
but it's not a judicial matter. They literally have no power,
Right.
but they as if they do.
Wow. Wow, Dad. So without giving out all your trade secrets, or
I'll
actually,
give
because I know
there's
you offer this as a paid service as well too. But but so I just take I'll use myself as a scenario, or just take this not myself, just take a dad, young brother who him and his child's mom are going through or experiencing some difficulties. Mom decides she goes down because we know, and I think this happened in the 90s, like you referred to. that when she goes down to get that welfare check, they now force the mom to put dad on child support. That's part of one of the laws. I know in DC that was the law where
That's
if
all.
you went, yeah, when you went down to the child support or when you went down to the welfare office to get public assistance, they forced you to put dad to in order to replace that money. I want to get into how they making billions of dollars off our child support money too at some point too. I want to get to that too, Dan. But first, I just wanted to walk through the scenario of how a dad who got this child support. Before we get into that, two things. I know communication can be a key in terms of relationship communication, meaning that, hey, look, because I had to learn that personally. I had to learn that I had to communicate with my child's mom in order for us to sort of move through this. Now, she didn't take me off of child support. I still had
Right.
to fight for that. I had to get custody. But if I'm not the custodial parent or the primary custodial parent, that's the term we use in DC, the primary custodial parent, how can I either reduce child support, get away from paying it, or protect myself when I go down to this court building after I just got subpoenaed to come pay it?
All right, cool. All right, so I do want to put a disclaimer up. I do not support deadbeat behavior, deadbeat activities.
We know, yes, that's true.
When
Yeah.
I show you how to get off of child support, this is no way, shape, or form saying I'm showing you not how to take care of your children.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that we do this is because the child support agencies make a big bag off of the payment
Millions.
that you make toward child support, and then they force these penalties on you. Like if you're in arrears, you can lose your license, lose your passport, you can go to prison, all of these different things. So this is how you can stop yourself from being the victim of how they run the play. Number one, you have to learn your rights as a parent, literally all your God-given rights before the United States or the state can get
Yes,
involved.
man. Yes.
Given to you
Facts.
by God. So
Facts.
if you don't know those rights, these people can manipulate you into thinking whatever they want you to think. We've been blinded by not understanding the law, and then because you don't know the law, they'll tell you to go get a lawyer. But if you go get a lawyer, you'll still be handicapping yourself because that lawyer's never going to argue to get you off of child support, to try to get you to pay, quote unquote, the lowest amount that you can pay. So how do you prepare yourself? You learn all of your rights as a parent. You learn all of the due process violations. No, I'll say it better. Learn what your rights to due process are,
Facts.
because most people don't understand that the courts are actually there to protect both sides, and any real judge is only going to be there to right a wrong, and so therefore a wrong has to be determined. And if you are someone who is active in your child's life to the best of your ability, and you still are dealing with, your baby mother went and got on welfare, so now you are forced by the state to pay child support. Well,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? There's a certain law, and I want you guys to take note of this law, okay? It's 42 USC 1301, a lowercase d in parentheses. And I'm going to summarize what that law states. It basically says that no government official, agency, or representative can take charge of your child with the objection of either parent. It doesn't say both parents. It doesn't say the custodial parent. It says either parent. So what does that mean? Child support cannot put anything against you if they don't have charge of your child. They need your child in order to get the child support payments.
That is deep, Dev. That is deep. Keep going, brother. I'm listening to you. I'm learning.
So dig it. If they need your child in order to put you on child support, but this law says that they cannot take charge of your child against your objection, and you are putting on the record that you object, there's really no case to be had. However, you still have to fight. These people have been crooks for so long. They're not going to let you fight this law, and you're going to be able to say, they're going to be like, oh, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. We're going to let it go. They'll fight you tooth and nail. So it really just comes down to really educating yourself. And there's only so much that I can say right here as far as education, but I just gave you 3 things that you will be able to utilize if you go do your own research.
Facts. That was deep right there. Just having that law itself because you're right in terms of just understanding your parental rights is so important. You
Mhm.
don't know, you definitely don't want to give up your parental rights. That's something you don't want to do.
No, 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 because people think I've had guys hit me up and say, "Yo, Dev, what if I just sign off my rights, man? Like, will I still have to pay child support?" I'm like, "Yeah, and you ain't gonna be able to do nothing about your child, so you're gonna be really
Right.
screwed over." And I do want to touch on one other thing, just so that I don't forget it. Custody and child support are two separate entities. However, they intertwine with each other. So I always tell individuals, go and get your 50-50 legal custody. I'm sorry, physical custody, 50-50 physical. The reason why you want to have 50-50 physical is because there's 365 days of the year. If you have your child for 182.5 days per year, then you cannot pay child support because the child is with you half of the time, and therefore you have to support that child while they're with you for that half of the time. If it's anything, I don't care if the mother has 183 and you only got 182, you'll be paying for that one day that she has the child longer than you.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up, because that was one of my approaches back then, was to file for custody to try to get legal custody, or 50-50,
Mhm.
which of course at that time the parent denied it. My child's mother denied it.
Of course.
Of course. So for me, that made it difficult. And then of course, because I had, in my case was a little different because I had wrote these books. But it was also that the courts at the time, DC anyway, Washington DC, I'm gonna put them on blast. They,
Mhm.
they did not, they looked unfavorably on dads or fathers wanting custody of their child in order to get child support reduced. And I was completely honest. Hey, this is my reason why I want to get, plus I want to be able to take care of my child. I want to see my child more. Back then, there was a sort of culture that may not be in the best interest of the child. This was the term they always use. What's in the best interest of the child? So what they would say is, you know, like I said, I'm very fortunate now. I don't have to go through this anymore. But what they would say is, um, you know, it's best because the child doesn't, you know, if they've already been living with mom for, say, you know, a certain amount of time, you're not necessarily living with child or haven't lived with the child, then of course that child should stay with mom more than he or she should stay with you. And
Right.
and I think that's where I kind of felt I didn't win those battles. I would say that. And then once that judge ruled, then it was difficult for me to appeal that decision, of course, because another judge wouldn't overturn that.
Mhm.
So, in your opinion, without, like I said, giving away all the trade secrets, because I know this is a service you provide, how do you how do you advise fathers to be able to get that cousin? Should they do it before child support happens? Of course, that's what I would say. But is there another way once child support either happens or once there's already been a ruling in place? What is your suggestion in that area?
So no matter what, whether it's before or during or even after, you should go and get your 50-50 physical custody rights. And I'm not a custody specialist. However, I'm very educated in that aspect. So I always tell people this. Once you understand your rights as a parent, I'm gonna give you a gem. There's something called the First Amendment, right? So everybody knows about the First Amendment. First
Yeah.
Amendment is freedom of speech. And people don't even know that the First Amendment is actually one of the key amendments that can help you to overturn whatever a judge says that they feel is in the best interest of your child. Number one, that's your child. No judge and no outside party can tell you what's in the best interest of your child unless you are considered an unfit parent. So if you are deemed a fit parent, there's nothing that no one can say to you, because the First Amendment as well as the 14th Amendment says that we cannot intervene with family ties or family situations. And the bond that you have with your child cannot be broken by any outside force. So what's the bond that you have with your child? Well, that intimate connection, the love that you have for your child. How do you communicate love? Verbally.
Sure.
So if
Verbally,
you if
yeah.
you verbalize, yeah, if you verbalize the love that you have for your child, you verbalize that you would never leave your child stranded, the government cannot intervene with that because you are considered a fit parent. The First Amendment, freedom of speech. Speech is the thing that ties you to that communication that you give to your child. I don't care if the child was still in the belly. They cannot say or stop the fact that you promised and made a bond with that child to never leave them. So you can literally use the First Amendment, if you put it together correctly, as a way to overturn a judge saying what he thinks his best interest is to stay with the mother for more days. And it's like, no, sir, you don't have that authority to tell me I'm 50% responsible for this child being here, and my child needs me equally enough as it needs the mother.
Deep. That's deep. That's deep. So I wonder why so many judges are ruling, and I want to get into this too. This is going to lead me to my next question, which I think is a big topic. Because I really want to, and I hate to use this word, expose this, but that's deep because I don't know. I would have to rely on your expertise to sort of advise someone, hey, look, when you're trying to get 50-50 legal custody,
Physical.
sorry, you're right, physical, because legal is physical. You're absolutely right.
Right.
That if the other parent says, no, I don't want him to have that, and the only reason he's doing that is because he's trying to reduce his child support, that's a great way of sort of bridging that gap to let the judge know at that time, hey, this is how you are able to get the custody rights that you want to have. But just after, just kind of elaborating a little bit more on that, man, I want to get into how these folks are making money off the child support system, Dave. I mean, that's deep, brother. They making millions. That's deep.
So let's get into it, and I'm a segue into it. The first thing is this: the reason that most of these states are for the woman and all of this stuff is because they know that women are the ones who go and apply for the child support majority of the time when they have custodial control, right? And so, like I said, these are two separate entities, custody and child support, but they intertwine. If we give more custody to the people that we know are more likely to go and put their child on child support, then guess what? We'll be able to make more money overall because child support actually pays for these people's salary. It pays for their retirement.
Wow.
And then also get certain bonuses. The states are incentivized to enforce and collect on child support payments. Okay.
Just really quickly, who are they incentivized by, Dave?
By the federal government.
Oh, the federal. Okay.
So here's the law that wow. backs up saying 42 USC 658A.
Mm-hmm.
So in 42 USC 658A, it speaks about the incentives. It literally says it in the law, and each state gets a certain amount of money based on three factors. How many new cases can you get opened up? You'll get incentivized. How many on-time payments can you get from people who are already paying child support? You'll get incentivized. How much money can you bring in from people who are in arrears or owe back payments? You get incentivized. So with all of these incentives, it's hard to think that they're doing these things for the best interest of the child instead of the best interest for their business.
For their pockets.
This is the easiest money that they can get next to taxes. Because even with taxes, they don't come at you as hard to lock you up unless you owe millions of dollars. And with child support, you can owe just over $2,500 and you can be late on payments, and they're gonna come and get you, right?
They came and got me.
But all of that is illegal. So let me just talk a little bit about how they make the money. If an individual is on welfare, hypothetically, they say they give her medical coverage, they give her cash assistance, and they give her food stamps. Well, they're going to put a cap on how much money they're going to give to that individual, right? There's a cap. But they're still going to look at the father and go off of his income and say, well, sir, you look like you can pay $1,200 a month. The mother's not receiving $1,200 a month in benefits.
Mhm.
Her cash assistance is capped. She might get, let's just say, $200 cash. She might get another $200 in food stamps.
Mhm.
And even if it was real numbers that they was talking about, real money for the insurance, maybe $150. So you're looking at about $550 per month that's allocated to her that the government is already giving her. So they come after you for the 1,200. So out of the 1,200, they're going to pay themselves back the 550. Then they'll probably give her like another 100, 175, and then they keep the rest for their services.
Wow.
Because child support is a service-based business. Y'all want to know how they're a service-based business? I'm gonna give you a few services that they offer. Parental is called paternity establishment. That's one business. That's one service.
Okay.
Parental location. This is for the guy that goes on the run. He moves in another state. They can find him. How can they find him? Because they have contracts with the Department of Health and the Department of Labor. Anytime you go to the doctor or anytime you get a, they can track you down that way. So those are two services. The other service that they offer is collecting child support. Then there's paying out child support, and then there's the service of modifying those payments. So they charge you for a service, and this is how they make their money. So you think, well, shit, even if you are your baby mother is not on welfare and your payments is $1,000 a month. If your payments is $1,000 a month, she's probably going to get $950, and the state is going to keep 50. I'm just throwing random numbers out there, right? They're like, well, they're not making that much money off of $50. I said, no, that's for a small thinker. Cash App allows you to transfer money back and forth for free. But if you want to cash out instantly, they'll charge you 1.5%.
That's right.
The reason they're worth billions of dollars is because they have so many users. With child support, even if they only made $50 per person per month, they have so many users of their service that they make a heavy bag. And that's how they went to it.
That is deep. That was very educational, man. I just, at one point I had came across some research, and I don't know how true this is, Dave, that the banks, the people that the government have accounts with, for example, I want to say I know DC more specifically uses Wachovia. I'm not sure if it's called something different now, maybe called True.
Wells Fargo.
Yeah, Wells Fargo. And then they also use some aspects of Bank of America, but they are also incentivized by these banks in such a way because, of course, if the banks receive this money, they make money from the money that's being received, that's flowing through this child support system. Talk a little bit about that, how the banks are sort of, or even the lobbyists, because I don't know what lobbyists would be involved with trying to incentivize child support so that they can gain from it. But like you said, if they're getting independent contracts from some of these services that are, go out and find me, or go out and sort of find these dead, I won't call them, let me not call them deadbeat dads, but go out and find these missing fathers in a sense. How do the banks make the money from the child support? Educate us on that. Tell us how, some of these other services are even incentivizing the government in a sense to help them sort of keep pushing this child support component.
When it comes down to the banks, right? This is the funniest shit. So a lot of people have dealt with something called a bank levy. So where you owe back child support, they're saying we're going to levy your account, meaning we're going to go into your account and take the money that you owe to us. So let's say you have an account at Bank of America, you got $10,000 inside the account, but you owe $35,000 in back child support. When they decide to put a bank levy on you, they will send paperwork to the bank. The bank will then levy your account. So 10,000, they'll take the 10,000, and sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they will overdraft your account. So you owe 35,000. They'll take the 10 and overdraft your account by 25,000. So now you owe $25,000 essentially to the bank. They won't unfreeze that account for you. But now, when they tell the banks to levy this account for that 10,000, they cut a check to the bank for doing that service. So the banks don't ask any questions. They believe that, okay, the government says to do this. They showed us a court order. We'll go ahead and follow suit. We'll take that 10 grand, issue it to them, and then they keep that portion, whatever that specific amount is. But let's talk about all the other companies that make money. your employer, if your employer is garnishing your wages, you can also find this in the law. Is 42 USC 666. I forget exactly what section it is off the top of my head, but it talks about in there where if your employer is garnishing your paycheck, you make $1,000 a week, they say, listen, we need to take $560 out of his check every week. They'll take the 560 and then the child support agencies will cut them a check of maybe $160 for offering that service of garnishments. So that's how they make money. The sheriff's department, the police department, the DMV, they suspend your driver's license. Oh yeah, that's heavy fees because every time you got to get your license restored, you have to pay that restoration.
Facts.
So they are all intertwined to how they make money. They actually have contracts with the child support agencies in each state and the District of Columbia.
Wow. That's deep. So I know we drawn up to getting close to where we have to end there, but just wanted to talk about, because I know this is important. I know this is a component that you educate as well on, but talk about the communication, how important communication is between mom and dad when it comes to sort of that child to sort of either stay away from the child support system or just if they already in it, how someone like a father who does not have primary custody of their child can sort of build or bring that togetherness in a sense so that they don't have to continue to go through this rigorous process of child support through the form of communication with each other. What are your thoughts on that?
So the thing is, I'm gonna be honest with you, you can never really depict, there's no perfect phrases or words or particular conversations that you have because it's all based on the individual. Two individuals have to be mature enough to have the conversation, and two individuals have to be mature enough to be able to make a decision as into how we're going to coexist and co-parent for these children. A lot of times there's a lot of animosity, and child support is only taken because of vindictiveness. It's like, I'm going to hurt you, so I'm going to put you on child support because you got a new wife, or you got a new lady and she got kids, or y'all just had a baby or don't have another baby and your child's mother not like it. Oh, you're going on child support. It's not even about the money at that point. It's just going through that particular system. There's so many guys who show receipts. Yana, I've been sending her $1,000 a week for the X amount of weeks.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, sir, that's a gift. And the reason that they will call it a gift is because they didn't get their cut. And because you're ignorant and because you're going to give them the consent when they run this game on you, they'll say, well, you owe us 5 years of back payments. And so they'll tally all of that up, and you can get put on child support today and you have thousands of dollars in arrears.
That's
right?
True. It's very true because they'll update it,
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. My youngest son's mother, I beat my case with child support when it first got initiated based off of me educating myself on what I learned. So I beat the case. But what I didn't know was that she went back and appealed their decision. So when they gave me my new summons, or was supposed to give me my new summons, they sent it to a whole new address that didn't even represent where I lived at all. And the reason I'm saying all of this is because they have now, since April, placed me back on child support. So because of default judgment, they knew if I come to court, it's over. So I have a hearing coming up in August, which I plan to annihilate them, and I'll be done with child support. But the communication between my son's mother and I, she's not on welfare. She has a good job. She has a great job. On paper, she makes more money than me. But she still allocated this portion of child support money every month. And I'm literally a guy who begs and pleads with, please allow me to have my son more, because they did the whole default on the custody as well. All of these things I'm back into fighting, which is a great thing for me because I teach people how to sue. And before, I wasn't able to sue child support. So now I can.
Good question.
Because of all the false stuff that they did, right? But when it comes down to that communication, it's either you guys are going to be able to communicate or you're not, because you can be the mature one and she cannot be, or she can be the mature one and you can be the obnoxious one and not be a person who lives up
Facts.
to your word. You
Facts.
understand?
That's facts.
So, I mean, try your best to open that line of communication, even with someone who's difficult. Because I feel like my youngest son's mother is very difficult. However, I still attempt. I might have to wait a month or two, but I'll bring the subject up and we'll talk about it again. But I already let her know this time. I say, yo, you should follow me on Instagram because she doesn't follow me at all. She don't know what I. She might got spies. I don't know.
You sure you're not gonna piss her off, Dave?
Because I'm like, I'm gonna beat this. I give you way more than the $530 that they're trying to get every month.
Sure.
Way more than that.
You mentioned something I think every brother wants to do, or dad. Let me say that how does one actually go about filing a lawsuit against the child support division? Has it been done? Are there history of that case history? And then what are the, I guess, the monetary compensations in that particular piece that you can actually sue them for? And what can you sue them for?
So up to $2 million, you can get them for. You can get them, number one, pain and suffering, because all the anxiety and emotional shit that goes through the family,
Facts.
that can't be measured, right? How about all the times that you probably had to take off of work so that you can go to court? How about you can charge $5,000 per hour for every hour that you had to prepare for all of your child support endeavors? You can charge $5,000 for that. But now, how do you get to a point where you can win? Well, you have to know the right of due process. Did they live up to due process? So I'm gonna give y'all a real quick explanation of due process, and hopefully this will be able to help you out. Okay. So due process is when the federal government or any government agency decides to deprive you of your life, liberty, and property interests. Before they can deprive you of those things, they must give you a notice, a hearing, and a decision made by a neutral decision maker. So most people say, well, I had my hearing, I lost. But who'd you have your hearing by? Was it by the fake judge, the fake magistrate? They're not a neutral decision maker. Why? Because they get paid from the Title 4D program. They get paid from the child support program. So it's in their best interest to make you pay the maximum amount of money that you can pay. Well, guess what? They already then violated your right to due process, because now your child support is actually being run not off of fairness and equal protection, but off of coercion, intimidation, and the fear and the manipulation. So that you can sue the support magistrate. You can sue the DMV for suspending your driver's license. Driver's license is very essential to a person's well-being in their life. If I need my driver's license to get back and forth to work so that I can make these payments, but you suspend that license, now I lose my job, but you'll continue to charge me for the child support payments every month.
Wow.
You are now interfering with my livelihood by taking a driver's license from me.
Now, just
if
now has this been done?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's tons of case law out there. The thing is this: they try to keep it as quiet as possible.
See that? Because I see that now. This is interesting.
Well, this is why you fucking with their money. You think they're not? They want that stuff as quiet as kept.
Yeah.
Right.
Facts.
And then one other thing is this: the reason why when you think is really a business. So if this is a business, every person in their business would do whatever it takes to keep their business flourishing. If I was a tire salesman and you got a flat tire, it literally will only cost you $15 to plug it. But if you come into my tire shop, a man who sells tires, and you ask, man, I just caught this flat, what should I do? I'm gonna look at the tire, and the first thing I'm gonna suggest is, well, we got used tires or we got new tires, because it's in our best interest to sell these tires. The plugs is nothing. It's $15. If I could sell you a new tire for $125, if you don't know no better, you'll drive away with a brand new tire, and guess what? We might convince you to get all four at this point, right?
That's very true. That's very true.
This is what every business is going to do. So these people are never going to publicize and articulate any of these things, because if they do, then more people will get an understanding that this is possible, and then they can beat, right? And the last thing I'll say is this: when it comes down to that whole process of them keeping things under wraps, if you ever go into challenge child support using the methods that we teach, what's going to end up happening is if you, for instance, go in under special appearance, they're going to push your case to the last case to be heard in the day, somewhere toward the last one. Why? Because if you're the first, second, or third, and there's other people waiting their turn to go up to see the judge, and you start spitting this shit and you catch them in a chokehold, you're going to be educating the people that's sitting behind you, and they don't want that.
Very true. Facts. That's facts. That's very true. So just really quick on for our audience here for 4duniversity.info. Tell us what they can get when they come to the website. Tell them type of services you offer, and tell us how you're helping so many dads, so many people, so many fathers, I would say, and probably mothers as well too.
Yeah, I got a lot of mothers. Yeah.
Yeah. So when they come to 4duniversity.info, what are they getting? Tell us, all about that.
So when you click that link, when you go to title4duniversity.info, I got something real special on there. It's a 4-hour video training called Get Ready for War. Okay. The reason I call it Get Ready for War is because these people are not going to give up the money that they're getting from you easily. So essentially it's a war. And when it comes down to war, what do you do with war? You start to get all of your ammo together, all of your artillery. You got to start stockpiling all of these different things. Then you start to build a strategy as into how you're going to even attack them. Well, with the Title 4D program, what we have for you, Title 4D University, we give you 4 hours worth of training where we break down the history of child support, all the violations they commit, all the things that you need to do to prepare yourself, the paperwork that's needed, and how to use the paperwork in succession. Also, what you're going to get now, I charge $97 for that 4-hour training by itself.
Okay.
But click the link, you're going to get it for $27. And on top of getting it for $27, I'm also going to give you a free e-guide that I wrote called How to Sue Child Support and Win. You're going to get 3 other e-guides that I've written. Let Me Go, which is talking about how to get off of child support in general. You're going to get I Need My Passport, and you're going to get I Need to Drive. All of these e-guides they're very short and brief, but it gives you some understanding as into what you can do under your current circumstances. And guys, that value right there is worth at least $300. And also, I'm sorry, you get the Dear Colleague letters, which are very important. We didn't get to talk about that. I'm sorry, but definitely look into the Dear Colleague letters, guys. And you get the COL form. So you get all of these things for just $27.
Well, that's real quick. The website is Title 4D, TITLE 4duniversity.info, right?
Sir.
Okay. That's amazing, man. So finally, I just want to jump back now because you brought up something out there for more specifically for our entrepreneurial audience. And now tell me more about the other businesses you're running right now in collaboration, or at least even separate from the Title 4duniversity.info. Tell us a little bit. You said you did business credit.
Yeah. So I'm a business credit consultant, business credit coach. They call me Coach Dev. What we do is we show individuals who have, let me say this. Most people, they always say, man, my credit's shot. I can't get nothing. I'm like, won't you get business credit? Well, they want to use me as a personal guarantor. Well, you can build business credit in 90 days or less with an EIN only and not using your social security number. So what we teach is, number one, how to structure your business properly. Most people are using their home address because they don't have a physical address. So when you use a home address for your business, banks will not take you serious.
Really?
Second thing is, if you are giving your business a certain name and you use the name like investments or trucking or real estate, these things are considered high risk business. So because they're considered high risk businesses, banks will not give you as much money as they will give an education company, a consulting company. And every business that you start can be educated in consulting. How? You got to train your workers. You have to train individuals who will potentially come and work for you. You have to train your customer. So you're always consulting. You're always educating. So we teach them how to structure the business. We teach them how to go through the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And I even got an ebook called 90 Days to 50K, shows you how to get $50,000 in 90 days by setting up your business properly.
Now, is there a website for this one too? So I have title4duniversity.info. That's
Yeah, no.
title
For
4.
that,
Oh,
you
go ahead.
gotta just hit me up in the DM
Okay, for the business credit, just hit you on Instagram.
on
Oh,
Instagram.
Facebook. Okay. All right. So that's just no website. Okay. So I appreciate you, Dave. I really think that our entrepreneurs, as well as our audience that was listening, especially those fathers that are dealing with the child support, can come to your company and be able to get this information that is so valuable, is so needed, and is so greatly appreciated from someone who is actually advocating on behalf of the non-custodial parent in most cases.
Hmm.
Just without, again, giving away all of your trade secrets for the company, just kind of to sort of finalize this component out. What do you want to tell not only the entrepreneurs, but also the non-custodial parents or those who are fighting this child support battle? Just kind of just your own conclusion to be able to send them on the way to at least start the process.
Got you. All right. So one thing I want to say is the labels that people give you, you don't have to accept. And you're like, well, what do you mean? That term non-custodial parent is not a term that we like to use. That's what they gave you that name.
Right.
And only person that could pay child support is a non-custodial parent. Never does a custodial parent pay child support. So if an individual, and trust me, this is no shade and no hate to anybody, but if an individual is born as a man but can now identify himself as a woman and cannot be discriminated against that identification of himself, and he can sue someone for calling him anything other than that, never label yourself or accept that label as a non-custodial parent, because a non-custodial parent is the only person who has to pay child support. So fellas, call yourselves the custodial parents, adopt that, and just live in that. So that's the first thing I want to say about that. But the other thing is, I give out all the information for free. Like, yes, I do have a business, I do have services that I offer, but literally, if you follow me at DevHawk on Instagram, you can get all of this game for free. It's just if you want more detail and you want more of my time and you want more of an explanation of these things because you don't have necessarily the willpower to do all this research that's necessary for this, then we make it easier for you. And that's when you can hire us to use our services. But other than that, come get all this free game, man. There's no reason why you should let this stuff slip past.
Right. Absolutely, guys. So go check out title4duniversity.info. I appreciate you, Dev. Just really quick for my audience, also DM Dev if you want to get the business credit info. It's a lot of great information. We'll check you out on how value